that's the learning tasks that we have in a nutshell. Now, to do those tasks, we need to be able to represent our individuals in a mathematical way. Right? The predictor is just a mathematical function. It's nothing more, nothing less. It's a function that adds and multiplies some numbers and spits out a number in the end. So numbers need to come in order for numbers to come out. So we need to represent our individuals numerically. So that's what this lecture is about. And how do you do that? That's actually a really hard task. And that, deciding how you represent your data, is the area where you can be the most creative in machine learning, believe it or not. So we'll talk about lots of different machine learning methods, but in practice, there are already methods that work as well as they can be. It is extremely unlikely that any of us will come up with a new machine learning method that outperforms the state of the art. It's possible, but it's extremely unlikely that we'll come up with a new method. However, we can come up with new ways to represent the data. That's where the human creativity comes into machine learning process. And believe me when I say it, you can get much bigger gains in performance by engineering the right representation than you can by coming up with a new learning algorithm. So it's the features, the representation that wins competitions. It's the features that allow you to perform better than whoever you're competing with. So that's the goal. We're trying to present our individuals as numbers. And what we're going to do is we're going to represent each individual with a set of attributes. And each one of those attributes is going to have some possible values. So what are the possible attributes? Well, maybe their height, color of the eye, what job the guy is currently holding, has he always paid up his credit cards on time? So all of those are attributes. And the values are just the natural values that those attributes could take. So the height could be 180 centimeters, eyes, blue or brown. What's his current job? Well, maybe he's a student or maybe not. So these attribute value pairs, this is what we're going to use. And the important thing is that's the form that we have to convert our data to, no matter what data we're dealing with, whether we are trying to classify images or detect objects in images or classify music or work with text. Whatever data we have has to fit into this attribute value form, where we have a set of attributes and each attribute has a value assigned to it. It's relatively straightforward, but sometimes it takes a little bit of time getting used to it, that every data set, whatever data you're dealing with, you must find a way to convert it to this form. A thing to remember about this, there is no ordering or structure of any kind to these attributes. So this won't be obvious for a moment, but there are data sets where structure is essential and you actually want to maintain some sort of a relationship between these attributes. The attribute value representation doesn't allow you to do that. So what you have to do is, whatever structure is present in the data, you have to embed it, either in the attribute itself or in the value that the attribute takes. And we'll see some examples of that later in this lecture, but that's it's a big challenging problem. So what kind of attributes do we have? In general, you can classify, sort of categorize attributes into three groups: categorical, ordinal, and numeric. So categorical attributes are basically a list of possible values, a discrete, finite list of possible values that a variable could take. And there's no ordering of any kind to that list. So an example of a categorical attribute would be, the color of something, maybe the eye color or maybe the color of a flower. So red, blue, brown, yellow. These are not numeric. There's a finite set of colors, we're assuming here, and there is no particular ordering to these values. Ordinal attributes are just like categorical. There's one big difference. It's a set of labels, but this set of labels also has a natural ordering to it. So, for example, a mark could be poor, satisfactory, good, or excellent. So there's a natural ordering. Satisfactory is greater than poor. and good is better than satisfactory, and excellent is better than good. So you can put these in a natural order. That's what makes them ordinal. You can't do it with colors. Right? There isn't, unless you look at wavelength, but in general, there isn't a natural ordering to the colors that you have. And the numeric attributes are just numbers. And numbers, they take many shapes and forms. You could have integers. You could have floating point numbers. You could have binary. And binary is actually a very common representation for a lot of the data that we'll be dealing with.